Hello everyone, I'm back again with another video. This time we're talking about Red Robin, aka Tim Drake, and how he would probably fight in real life. This is the third video in this series. The first two covered Nightwing and Red Hood. You don't really need to watch those videos to understand this one, but if you want, go ahead. Like in my other videos, I'm going to give an introduction, compare Tim with real life fighters, and then discuss his equipment. Anyway, let's get started. Tim Drake was in the crowd when Dick Grayson's parents were murdered at the circus. When Tim saw that Batman had a new sidekick named Robin, he was somehow the only person on the entire planet who was able to tell that Dick Grayson was Robin, and therefore that Batman had to be Bruce Wayne. Tim sat on this information, and over time, Dick became Nightwing and Batman got a new Robin named Jason. Jason would eventually be presumed dead. In the time following, Tim noticed that Batman wasn't doing so well without a sidekick, so he showed up one day and confronted Bruce, telling him that he knew that he was Batman and that he wanted to become the next Robin, which he eventually did. Tim got to be Robin for a few years before Damian Wayne showed up and overtook the mantle. Tim was basically forced out of being Robin, so he became his own hero with the name Red Robin, which is just a terrible name, unfortunately. To me, it's like a superhero being named the Arby's or the Burger King. Also, the fact that he still has Robin in his name will always cement him as a sidekick instead of his own hero. If I had to give him a name, maybe I'd call him something like the Gotham Knight. I don't really know if that's taken. I know there's like the Arkham Knight, and Batman's the Dark Knight, and sometimes the Gotham Knight, I think. I don't know, I get that it's probably one of Batman's nicknames, but come on, he already has a bunch of nicknames that are all cool, and it would make Tim stand out more if he managed to inherit a title directly from Batman. According to Batman Arkham Knight, Tim is 6 feet tall and 189 pounds. For reference, he's 14 pounds heavier than Nightwing and 11 pounds lighter than Red Hood. Even though all three of these former Robins are the same height, they have vastly different sizes. Nightwing would probably fight as a lightweight, Red Hood would probably fight as a middleweight or perhaps a large welterweight, and Tim, given his size, would most likely be a welterweight. Tim is about the same size as real-life fighters Kamaru Usman, Robbie Lawler, Wonderboy Thompson, and Jorge Masvidal. Like with my other videos, I'm comparing Tim to the best fighters in the world, because he is supposed to be at that level as well. Most of my fighting analysis will discuss moves displayed in the Arkham series. Tim mostly uses his staff when fighting. He'll only throw maybe like a right cross or something once in a while, and he does these big kicks relatively infrequently as well. Interestingly, for every single special takedown, Tim will break the arm of his opponent. Overall, Tim uses his staff so frequently that his hand skills so infrequently, it's going to be a little harder to compare him to real life fighters just on the Arkham games alone. So I'm going to have to go a little bit abstract this time and just compare to my analysis of Red Hood and Nightwing. Nightwing was the gymnast, explosive athlete. Red Hood was the violent, efficient brute. So Red Robin is more of the tactician who utilizes a high fight IQ to win. Tim has always been known as the smart Robin. He's the only one to figure out Batman's identity. His equipment choices are smarter than Nightwing's, and he doesn't have the same inherent athleticism as the other Robins. At least as far as I can recall. Anyway, based on character analysis and how he fights in the Arkham games, I'm going to say that Tim would fight a lot like a George St. Pierre, Jorge Masvidal, Demian Maia, and Stephen Thompson. GSP, or George St. Pierre, is thought of by many to be the greatest fighter of all time. He came from a karate background, but somehow managed to become the best wrestler of his era. He fought to win. Every one of his opponents were analyzed and defeated. A prime example would be how he took advantage of Michael Bisping's limited vision to catch him with a looping punch that he never saw coming in order to win the middleweight title after 4 years of already being retired. Jorge Masvidal is well known for his explosive knockout of Ben Askren, but he's also a very cerebral fighter who knows when to explode and when to wait. Demian Maia is maybe the most skilled grappler in the history of the welterweight division. He would win entire fights without throwing a punch, and although he was more of a strangler and Tim is more of an arm breaker, that's still both grappling. Finally, I chose Stephen Wonderboy Thompson because he's an outside-the-box striker that utilizes distance very well, which I think parallels well to Tim's use of range in his fighting style. So combine Wonderboy Thompson's distance control, Masvidal's creativity, Maya's grappling, and GSP's fight IQ, and you probably get how Tim Drake would fight. Now let's talk about Tim's equipment. Like I said before, Tim mainly uses a staff to fight with. Tim's staff is different than most because it can go from about the size of an eskrima stick and expand to a full bow staff. Tim can control the extension and retraction of the staff quite easily, which gives him a more versatile weapon. Also, the staff can expand outward and form a shield, which is also somehow bulletproof. This is not very realistic. I mean, even riot shields used by the military and police can only handle up to a certain caliber of round. Now imagine taking a riot shield and converting it to something that can fold up into a relatively small stick. Playing devil's advocate as much as I can, maybe people as smart as Batman and Tim could come up with some kind of way to make a thin piece of metal be bullet resistant. But let's just say, if we're being realistic as possible, that this device can only block a few low caliber rounds before being destroyed. My final thought on the shield is the shield bash, which in the games launches people into the air. I don't think it would be able to do that in real life, but throughout history people have used shields to strike, so there's no reason he can't, use the shield to hit people with. It might be useful from time to time. Anyway, before I really began researching for this video, I thought I was going to have some major critiques for the way Tim fights. I imagined that Tim typically held the staff in the middle and used it kind of like Darth Maul from Star Wars, but no, he actually uses it pretty well. As I explained in the Nightwing video, when you're using a blunt object like a stick, you want to strike with the very edge of the tip and have your grip as far away as possible without slipping off to generate the most amount of force. Tim has multiple moments in his combat where he just does exactly that. When he uses a staff in its shorter form, he has a pretty good range of attacks. I get that he keeps his stick short more for storage than anything, but there are times where it would be better to have an eskrima stick than a full staff, especially in close quarters. Now let's talk about the staff itself. The biggest advantage that comes with something like a staff is its range. It can hit you from a range where you can't hit me. Then not only do I get to hit first, I'm also safe as long as I can keep you at that range. Tim does a pretty good job of extending the staff and holding on to one edge in order to get more powerful strikes, but he also strikes from the middle and uses his jabs. It's not the worst thing in the world to hold your staff from the middle. It's kind of just makes it so you work against yourself a little bit. You get less power and obviously less range, but at the same time you can block and control your opponent with the middle of the staff, and you can still hit decently hard with the sides. There might be some advantage to holding the staff like this once in a while. Next is utilizing the jab or using the staff like a spear. Most people think that the best weapon to ever use prior to the invention of firearms is the sword. These people are all wrong. All across ancient history, in the vast majority of battlefields, the weapon of choice were polearms. Polearms were often cheaper to make, but more important, they were far more deadly. It goes all the way back to that range advantage. It turns out with a long pokey stick, you can stab your opponent who has a shorter pokey stick before he has the chance to stab you. Now the difference between something like a spear, halberd, axe, or hammer and a staff is that there's no metal thingy on the end to do additional damage. However, getting jabbed with a staff hurts. And the end of a staff doesn't need to be swung that far to cause damage, enabling quicker strikes. From the gameplay, Tim utilizes the staff pretty well, except for when he does dumb shit like throwing it sideways at people, but whatever, let's move on. So now we're going to talk about Tim's gadgets. He's got the grapple hook, zip kick, shuriken, explosive gel, smoke pellet, and snap flash. Also, he would probably have access to all kinds of non-lethal equipment. Think about what police officers used against rioters, and you'll have a pretty good idea of the range of stuff Tim could use. I talked about this kind of a lot in the Nightwing video, so you can check that out. Let's start with the grappling hook. I've talked about this damn thing twice already, but I'll say it again. For the most part, this device wouldn't work in real life, but here's an opportunity to attach it to the waist, kind of like in Attack on Titan. It would be able to kind of disperse the force so you wouldn't just snap your arm off the second you use it. So the use of the grappling hook is getting high, and no, not like that. The biggest issue, I would think, would be shooting the grappling hook into something, climbing halfway up and having the point come out wherever you grappled. just imagine falling 100 feet because, you tried to wedge yourself into some concrete and then it just cracked. Also, before I said that, this device could be useful to shoot at people, and I maintain that it definitely could, but given that this is supposed to dig into stuff like cement or stone or brick, I think it would totally kill whoever Tim tried to shoot it at. But, I mean, it could make a sweet Mortal Kombat fatality if he ever became a DLC character, though. The zip kick is similar, although it's meant to grab people, not kill them. I don't know about the physics behind this thing, but I mean, it could be partially useful to grab weapons and stuff from people. My only issue is what the rate of success would be, and if at that point would the risk be too high. I mean, if you think about it, to use this on someone, you would kind of have to be in front of them, and they could probably point their weapon at you relatively quickly to you shooting a grappling hook and attaching it right at the right spot and then pulling it out of their hands. Anyway, I've already spoken about shuriken twice now. In total, I don't really think they're great. I don't really see a strong use for them. Honestly, Tim might as well carry around a bunch of rocks to throw at criminals. At least then he could change his hero name to Rock Robin, Red Rockin', Rock Rockin', something like that. The smoke pellet is pretty good. It's basically just a smoke grenade. He could also use flash grenades, grenades with non-lethal shrapnel, etc. Any of those would be pretty useful. Oh, now I'm excited. I finally get to talk about explosive gel. Yeah, it's great to have this for opening doors, walls, destroying contraband, sabotage. Unlike in the Arkham games, I really don't think there's such thing as a non-lethal explosive. I can't really imagine how that's possible. But yeah, explosive gel could definitely be a useful tool. I just don't see Tim using it in combat. And the final gadget is the Snap Flash. It's Tim's only unique gadget in the Arkham games, aside from his staff. In the games, it's maybe not that useful. In real life, it's kind of the same issue with the explosive gel. I don't really see how a non-lethal explosive device is supposed to work. I mean, people even die from pepper spray, and smoke grenades often cause burns and fires. It may be useful in some ways, I guess if he's fighting like a robot, but we're trying to bring this more into realistic life. But yeah, I doubt Tim would ever use a snap flash against the person. It would definitely kill him. Now let's talk about Tim's suit. Like the other Robins, I'm just going to assume the suit is mostly bullet resistant. Tim wears a hood, which I think is kind of stupid. All it's going to do is limit your range of vision. The only advantage it gives is to keep your head dry from the rain, or maybe keep your ears warm. Also, his mask is very minimalist, not really offering any protection or keeping his identity concealed. I mean, remember that guy who assaulted someone with a bike lock? He had his whole face covered except for his eyes, and 4chan found his identity in a few hours. In real life, I think Tim would take a page from Red Hood and wear a full helmet that maybe even covers his mouth. That way he's protected from blows to the head and face and from chemical gases. If it's like a motorcycle helmet, he can still maintain a pretty good field of vision as well. Finally, Tim has a cape. Obviously, this thing is great in the games because it lets him glide. But in real life, I don't think this would actually work. I mean, wingsuits exist, but they don't exactly slow you down to the point where you don't need a parachute. Plus, walking around with a huge piece of cloth attached to your neck is not really a great idea when you plan on fighting people hand to hand. So that's Tim, or Red Robin. He would have an assortment of non-lethal equipment to disorient bad guys. He would have his staff that he could use when fighting. And that in turn can extend and turn into a shield, which he can use to block low caliber rounds in a pinch. And should he lose his staff or it breaks, he could always fall back to that tactical and fundamentally sound fighting style, utilizing a high fight IQ. So that's the end. Tim is actually my favorite Robin, mainly just because I thought he was really cool when I played Arkham City 10 years ago. I like that he wasn't invited to become Robin. He basically took the position for himself. Anyway, I still got one more Robin to talk about, so subscribe if you want to be able to find that video. I'll see you next time. Later.